So how did you get started? Like,
Well, how did I get started? I suppose the broadcasting thing, it was kind of never in the uh, pictures for me. I always like media, and not necessarily media, just tech. I've always been kind of just a tech nerd. I like new gear, toys, GoPros, drones, whatever. Um, and when podcasting started coming out, 5 or 6 years ago, I kind of saw that as just there was new toys coming out in that world, and thought it'd be fun to get my hands on some of those, but wanted to know if making a podcast was possible. So kind of just started that route, seeing if talking for 15, 20, 30 minutes was something that I was capable of doing. Then figured out that wasn't that hard. Started with my brothers. So then I got some better podcasting gear after realizing, okay, this was fun making podcasts. Now let's get some better gear. What you see the YouTubers and all that use, the roadcasters and the mics. And so got all that set up. And then about that time was when COVID hit. So nobody was allowed to go to any of the ball games. Everything had to kind of start being live streamed then. And it also happened to be that our radio station here, our longtime broadcaster, Dick Anderson, I don't know if you remember him, Trent.
I do know him.
He had stepped away. He had retired, so we had a new young guy. I can't remember his name, and he was struggling a little bit on the air. People were weren't happy with the way he was calling ball games. So they were like, "Man, Cody, you should try it." And I was like, "Well, I got all the gear to do it at home.
Mm-hmm.
I've got the headsets and the mics, and everybody was streaming their games then, so." That's what we did. We would just watch the live stream in my basement and do play-by-play from the live stream, watching it. And we'd send out a link so people could listen to it. And people ended up tuning into that one. And that was like week 3 of the season that year. And they were like, man, you got it. So we just did it the rest of the season. Me and my buddies just sat in my basement and did play-by-play for the Pratt High football games. And Pratt people enjoyed it. So fast forward about 8 months, and the radio station was going to let go of that kid that they had brought in. And our school at the time, was to the point where they were like, the radio is going to keep changing people. We saw how good a job you did, Cody. Do you just want to take over Greenback Sports? And I said, yeah, I'd love to. Let's plan on that. So our school wasn't even going to go with the radio station at that point. They were just going to let me handle their play-by-play for sports. Because I told them I thought I could. And then Austin swooped in. They made a last-minute hire, and they hired Austin McNorton, Trent, who you know.
Yes.
And they were like, man, we're going to give this kid a try. Like, we don't want to kick the radio station to the curb, because at some point we might need him back, or it's just a relationship. They didn't want to burn that bridge. So Austin came into town, and they were like, hey, would you sit down with Austin? And so I sat down with him, and you can't not meet Austin and not love him, as full of energy as he is. So he was like, man, I would love for you to do my color. Like, he's the play-by-play guy, but he was like, I don't know anybody in Pratt. I'm new here. Like, I know everybody. He was like, if you would want to help me out, man, I would love it. So I was like, sure, I'll just stick around and do it. So that's how that started. Did color with him for 2 years and learned a little bit of the ropes as far as the behind the scenes of the radio. And it just kept evolving from there. So that's how I kind of got to where I am. I just continue to keep evolving it. The more I was streaming, I just tried to continue to improve my live streaming with the equipment or gear. Or it's hard to do as a solo, one-man show. So, I mean, I do have limitations. It's if you're trying to do it and saying I've got 5 kids that are going to help me every week, would be awesome. Everything I do is geared towards thinking that I've got to be able to do this all myself. So from the time I hit, go live. My main focus is the play-by-play. That's kind of what pays the bills. That's who is, I'm getting paid by, is the radio station, the bulk of it. So there are times when my live stream is having trouble and I can't break away to troubleshoot it, because, I'm in the middle of doing a basketball play-by-play game or football. And it's like, sorry, the radio is the primary focus. The live streaming is just an added bonus that we hope works every time. So that's kind of the story. And our school never did softball or baseball. They never could do anything off-site. They only had the capability with their setup to live stream, at the football field or in the gym, football and basketball. And I was like, hey, we can live stream baseball and softball. If you just let me do it, let me try. And so we were able to add baseball and softball to the streaming package. So yeah, it's really just been a good relationship with the school, and doing a lot of stuff for free for years, hoping that, it would pay off at some point. Just kind of that give it away, and then ask, at some point, hoping that what you're doing, people see the value in it. And then eventually you'll be like, man, can we sponsor you? And it's like, yeah, sure. That'd be great. That's the long story.
No, it's well said. It's good to know all that information. That's very interesting. I guess one of a broad question that some might have is, and you kind of answered this because you said you were always interested in technology, but just for a person just getting into it, where did you acquire knowledge from about video streaming? Where does a person even start? Seems like the information can be overwhelming, and you can ask 5 people, you might get 5 answers.
Yeah, YouTube University. I probably got my master's degree from YouTube University. Just Tom Buck is a channel I really like for everything Rodecaster related. Again, that's the soundboard that I use is the Rodecaster. So he puts together a lot of stuff, just kind of every in and out with it. And again, I kind of just try to find people similar to my setup, because I was the same way. I've bought in so much equipment or looked at so much stuff thinking that, oh man, that looks cool, I want to do that. But at the end of the day, it really didn't apply to what I wanted to do or what I was capable of doing. A lot of times the equipment that works best is the stuff you know how to use. You can get sucked in the trap of wanting the cool looking broadcast camera and just to look professional. But for the first 2 or 3 years, I did everything with iPhones. I mean, this is all on iPhone, iPad that we're doing right now. I still like, sometimes the best camera you have is the one in your back pocket, and a lot of times I've got 3 or 4 old ones laying around. So Switcher Studio is what this setup and this stream is going through right now. And I've used them that's where I started all 5 years. I use them for all my podcasts. Again, it's all runs through my iPad. Let me see if I can kind of show you a behind the scenes look here. Give me a minute. We'll switch this view. So like, this is what I'm seeing here.
Okay.
This is my iPad. And so you can see I've got all the scene, but you can just run a lot through it. I've got all the inputs there and can adjust the different sources. And then my soundboard, this is that Rodecaster I was talking about. So you need some type of soundboard like what you use, Trent, that you can feed, good mics into a computer, or whatnot. And they just feed into my iPad. And then it is filming with the iPhone here that's on me. And you can hook as many iPhones up and run through this as long as you're all on the same Wi-Fi. That's how they all connect. So I would shoot a lot of ball games like that the first couple years. Football games and everything. I'd just have an iPhone on a tripod and using that, panning back and forth, and then using my iPad's an iPad Pro with cell data, with the SIM card. So that was all the internet connection I would use to stream was just my iPad and the iPhone's hooked up to it. I mean, really until baseball season this year, I finally upgraded. I was like, you know what? I think it's time to upgrade my camera setup. But like I said, for the first 2 or 3 years, it was a lot of just iPhones and iPads because that's what I knew how to use. And that was the stuff I already had. So again, I could control it all in one central hub from a press box. Again, I had to be able to do it all by myself. Every now and then I get lucky and have a kid. I'd be like, hey, will you run the tripod and do the camera? Usually you can find somebody to do that, but yeah, the main thing was what can I do all by myself and not have to worry about a bunch of settings. And most everything I do on auto. I'm not the guy if you want to learn all the buttons of your camera and all of that. It can get overwhelming. So I'm a big fan of auto. A lot of little trial and error, but more just kind of getting familiar with stuff. And it just kind of evolved, in the podcast, I started with just audio only because that was easier. It was easier to learn how to just edit only audio clips and not have to mess with video. And then I was like, okay, I kind of got that down. Now I want to add video. Just I like watching the podcast if I'm listening to one, at least for a little bit, to see the faces. So it was like, all right, let's start with, a one camera podcast where it was just the wide shot of me and whoever I was talking to. And then it was like, okay, that's got that down. Now let's go to multi-camera, where more of what we're doing here. And then, so yeah, it just kind of just continues to evolve, and like I said, I've been able to monetize it now, so I can kind of use some of the money that I make from it to reinvest into just kind of keep it getting better and upgrading. So, that's kind of where I'm at. It's every situation is so specific, where you're like, what should I buy if I was going to get started? And it's like, man, that is such a hard question to answer because it is so specific to how many people you've got helping. What's your knowledge? What are you wanting to do? Are you doing football? Are you doing basketball, wrestling, volleyball? Are you wanting to there's, a lot of different pieces of equipment out there that can do different things. So yeah, it's really case specific. I don't have a one size fits all answer for that.
Elizabeth, do you have a question?
So when you run your audio, you run it directly into your iPad, or do you have an audio board to act as an intermediary?
Yeah. So that Rodecaster, that big old colorful thing there that I don't know if you caught it. Yeah. So that's what all like these mics here that I'm talking on. And that's what I have in the press box too. I've just got the headsets with the broadcast mics that I swap out. So all the sound goes through that. And then, like right now, then it's just plugged into my iPad, just through the USB-C port on my iPad. So anything I run from, I don't think I have any, if I'm in the press box, I'm playing my commercials all the commercials on the radio station.
At Timish Electric, we light up your world with reliable and efficient electrical services.
I'm playing them all from that soundboard, from that Rodecaster. I've got them all loaded on there. So anytime I take a timeout or a quarter break, I'm the one pretty much running my own board during the game. So I like it. The first game or two we did, I didn't. The guy at the station would, I assume just listen in and cut in when he needed to. But I like having the control of, if it's the national anthem, I need to go 2 minutes, I can do that. Or I can go, if it's an injury timeout, I can do it right away. I can fade in, I can fade out. I like having all of that at my fingertips versus just hoping that when I say we'll be back in 60 seconds, it all flows together good.
So your software that you're using is the Switcher Studio?
Yeah, and it is a paid app. I think it's gone up a little bit. I want to say it may be close to $400 a year. But I use it enough that I can justify it. Like I said, any of my studio stuff where I'm at now, that's what I use it for. And a lot of even the field work, that's what I use. And it just is all, I'm a big fan of the Apple ecosystem just because I've got so much already in it. So being able to stay in, it's all Apple iOS based. So just a matter of, anytime I get a new phone, I just keep the old one and it turns into a new camera for my Switcher Studio and all that. It's really pretty slick. And it's got a pretty good community of, you can get on, there's a couple Facebook pages. I follow Switcher Studio enthusiasts. There's a good high school audio and video Facebook channel that I follow that just lurk around in those comment sections and posts and try to learn as much as you can. And, I've reached out to a lot of people being like, hey, I saw you were doing this. Like, can I message you? Kind of like what you're doing with me. And most of the time, everybody's pretty friendly and answer any questions. It's just so specific to what you're doing. That's the main thing is that, I don't know what your scenario is. If you're more looking for, not only how to do it, but then how to monetize it. Those are kind of two different different ballparks as far as, the technical side of just how you do streams or what equipment. And then once you do it, that's one of the main questions I see on those forums all the time is, man, I've been doing this for 5 years. How do you guys monetize it? I really think I don't want to say lucked into it because I have put a lot of work into it, but just the situation that came up here for me, it was just everything aligned right at the right time with, like I said, the radio station being bought out. And, me having a really good relationship with our high school and kind of putting my media stuff together at the right time. It would have been a lot harder if the radio would have said, if we would have not come to that agreement and we both would have said, okay, we're going to compete against each other. You go sell your ads, I'll go sell my ads, and we'll see which one businesses support. I'm glad we didn't put our businesses here in Pratt in that situation to have to choose. Yeah. So like I said, it worked out really good, but that was the initial route we were going to go down. And I was confident that I could go out and, sell $200 a month ad to a business here in town, but it would have put a lot more work on me of having them to deliver commercials and all that. Right now the radio station does all that. If we sell an ad, the radio has their commercial put together and just sends it to me. And so, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to it. It's how much do you want to tackle? How much time do you want to put into it? And so
I think you do have a very unique situation.
Yeah, and I'm fortunate enough, I think, to be in it. But I mean, I think it's achievable for everybody. It just takes some, I don't know. So it takes some work. I don't want to scare anybody off by saying, "Oh man, it's not doable." I never intended it to do this. I did all this because it was a hobby. I mean, this studio I've got now, this was all before the radio came along. This was just like this was just my hobby spot, instead of hunting or golfing or whatever, I was spending money on this stuff because I had fun doing it, and then it just kept evolving into, what is Eastus Media now. So yeah, it's if you do it for the money, it might be harder to find joy in it, I guess, like anything, I'm just fortunate that money comes along with it. I'd still be doing it if it wasn't.
I've been doing it for 24 years, so I've never done it for the money, but it wouldn't hurt at this point in my life to make a little bit more money with it.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's done the play-by-play radio broadcasting, and so we're looking at creating our own company that is going to add that video component to it and live stream. Our local high school currently live streams home varsity games, and they'll have a camera operator that will move. And then on like JV games, it's a fixed camera, kind of like what you would get with Huddle.
The Huddle, or is that who does
it?
5-Star Productions, or what is that up there?
Yes, 5-Star Studios.
5-Star Studios. So is
and
that
they don't do
the
road games.
Okay.
And they don't do road games, so there is room there for.
Now, sometimes road games are tricky in the sense that a lot of times the homeschool can tell you no. So it's tough to promise sponsors and fans, hey, we're going to cover X amount of road games when you get up there, and maybe they've already granted it to Backroads Broadcasting or something up around that area, and they're like, sorry, we've already given that game to them, or I've had schools that if they've got the Huddle contracts or the NFHS contracts, some of their ADs are like, sorry, it's exclusive with those. We can't allow an outside, streamer to come in. I'm like, okay, but
do you run into that too much? Very much?
No, I did at Hoisington last year or 2 years ago. They wouldn't let me stream there because they had just signed on with Huddle. This year I just did it without asking them. I just said, hey, if they want to shut me down, they can shut me down, but I'm going to go ahead and just set up, and I'm not going to ask for permission this time. And it was a new AD. He didn't care. He was like, go ahead. Cheney last year was like, go ahead, your stream's going to be better than our NFHS stream, so have at it. It just depends on the AD. But yeah, I could see if you came to Pratt and were like, hey, we'd like to live stream. I don't know, if our AD would say, well, Pratt already has a live stream, so we want people tuning into that one. So no, okay. I don't know what their reason for saying no is, if it's contractual with some of those streaming platforms, or if it's they want the eyeballs and viewers to be watching their home stream. I don't know.
I was going to ask.
I think it depends on the if you're crossing over ad revenue in the same location.
Yeah.
So with your Pratt example, none of our advertisers would be from the Pratt area.
Right.
And our listeners are going to be from our area and advertise to our audience.
Yeah.
So it would be like two separate
Yeah, I could see that, wanting to protect their businesses from getting hit up so much from, it's like, hey, they already pay for, and sometimes they just don't say no but it is, like I said, I own a restaurant, so I get hit up every week for sponsoring something. So I can see the schools protecting their businesses as far as, like, hey, no, we don't want another business coming in here asking for a sponsorship. So yeah, that does make sense. Postseason, you got to run that all through Keisha. They've told me no sometimes. It just depends on they're a whole nother conversation. So, yeah.
A question about basketball season. It can be such a grind. I always just kind of wondered, most of the time you're going to want a camera person. But did I notice in the past sometimes you just have to use like a stationary camera for basketball when you're on the road because it may be hard to get somebody to go with you?
Yeah, so I haven't done basketball yet. Last year, so this will be the first year I'm going to try to stream basketball on the road.
Okay.
I've always just done the radio broadcast for basketball games, and then our home games we stream those. Like I said, our school has a live streaming operator. So like if it's at the football field or the gym, they've got someone doing the live stream, and then they just feed our audio into it for the radio. So it's those ones are more of a partnership. The ones that are solely Eastus Media, like have been the football games on the road this year. And I'm going to try to do basketball this year, where you don't have to try to watch, the Abilene stream and then tune into the Thunder Country app and try to sync them up so you can listen to your hometown broadcasters and watch the game. That's what so many people try to do. So I'm going to try to provide the full game stream for basketball. I've had trouble in the past. I've done some volleyball in the past when my daughter was playing volleyball, and it's just tough to guarantee you're going to get good internet in the gym, and streaming videos more intensive than, audio as far as the bandwidth. So anytime I'm in a gym, it's kind of like just cross your fingers and I hope that the video is good. So that's another one where, we lost Elizabeth there.
Yeah, her computer died. She just texted me. Sorry about that.
Okay. So yeah, the basketball, I'm hoping it goes all right this year, but yeah, that's one where there's some gyms out there that you get in and it's just a black hole as far as cell coverage. And again, that's what I rely on is kind of cell coverage as far as, my internet stream. So I'm hoping this year, and I talked to our coach. I was like, hey, would you have an extra manager to spare on the road games that I could use as a camera op? And he was like, yeah, I think we would. So I'm going to try to piggyback off of, a student that may be there that's not busy, not doing anything, to run the camera for me for basketball. So yeah, basketball season will be a bit new in that sense as far as trying to stream it and get the actual full game coverage. Something I do is that on my Facebook, I'll have a camera on us in the booth all the time.
Yes, I noticed that.
I stream that one. It's just a fun way for people to watch along. It's a good advertiser. If you're scrolling Facebook on a Friday night or a Tuesday night, then and it comes across that Eastus Media is live. That's a fun way to grab you then and maybe then pull you into the YouTube channel or to turn the radio on or just watch us behind the scenes. A lot of people just like watching. It's kind of fun sometimes to watch your broadcasters facial expressions and just them call a game, just hearing it, so I do that for everything, football, baseball, basketball. I always have that behind the mic cam, I call it, that we live stream to Facebook. So yeah, I kind of multiple destinations for people to watch it.
Yeah, Kansas State has it. I love watching that. And you have a good product, Cody. I mean, you're talking about everything. You just have a good product. When I scroll past your posts on Facebook, I enjoy seeing them, and that's why I looked you up to get a hold of you about this.
Well, I appreciate it. Now, like I said, unfortunately, I don't have like a square one for you to start in.
No, that's okay.
Other than to just start, that's what I tell. I'll go talk to the kids at the high school here, or, I'll have 4 or 5 people throughout the year that, hey, I've got this idea. I want to start this up. And that's all the farther they get it. They never launch. It's just always stays in that ideation phase. And it did for me a long time too. It probably took me 2 years of saying, I think it'd be fun to start a podcast before I actually did it. you've already are comfortable with putting yourself out there, so that you're past that hurdle. It's sometimes that's the hardest part, is thinking that, oh, people are going to listen to me talk, and I'm not comfortable with that. So you're used to that. So I would say just start. Start small. Start with what you have. Start with what you know. Whether it's if you've got some cameras or you've got phones and iPhones. I'll send you. I don't have my computer hooked up here where I could pull up a web page, but. So I recently, kind of what I've switched to instead of this Switcher Studio and iPad based. I don't know if you've seen like the YOLO boxes or those kind of all-in-one streaming tablets. Those are the two. There's the YOLO box and then Magewell are the two makers of. I bought a Magewell. It's called a Magewell Director 1. I don't know. Let me just see if I can pull up a picture here. Because I kind of had a setup of my booth that I gave somebody. Bear with me here, and I can kind of show you what I'm talking about.
I'll probably ask you one more question about advertising too, and maybe you can answer it while you're looking up something. So when they sold that, you didn't guarantee anyone a specific amount of games being video streamed because you weren't doing basketball at the time.
No, and I made sure that it said it like that. At first, my radio head honcho, we had in there whatever, every football game, every basketball game, and that was some of the language that I had changed, was just kind of where available. I think is the way we worded it, or where was it available.
You hear a lot of stations use something like a monthly package. They pay 12 months out of the year. Is that what you guys did? Something like that?
Yeah. And I think they've started offering some kind of split packages, or they've started portioning those out a little bit. We have some sponsors that they just want to do football season, or they just want to do, the winter and spring. And I think the thinking is, any type of sponsor is better than no sponsor. If they don't want to commit to a full year, let's not tell them, sorry, we don't have anything for you. So we do have some that just do, partial sports. For basketball, I'll do some other, we've got our ham auction here in town. We do our buckets for Booster Club, where they donate $5 for every made 3-point bucket to the Greenback Booster Club. Just stuff like that. And that's not anything I profit off of. That's just kind of another way to get businesses involved. So just some little things like that. But yeah, the traditional package is a full year billed over 12 months is what, if you're wanting to sponsor Greenback Sports, that's what we really try to get people to sign up for.
Do you offer additional packages, like if they want to be the red zone, like this is what I think, does K-State go, this is the Case IH red zone?
Right. I don't, but I don't know that the sales ladies don't do that. Again, I'm about as far removed from actually working for the radio station as you can possibly be. So I don't have any idea how that side of it works. I literally, their sales girls come over from Dodge City that, cause they've got a couple stations here in Western Kansas, and they come sell all the ads here in Pratt. And I'll check in with them once a month or so, how they're doing. So it's not me personally in front, unless it's some of the business owners, I know pretty well. I'll chat with them. But it's not me going in the door saying, hey, do you want to buy a package for, Thunder Country or Eastus Media? It's the sales ladies that, are, and they'll sell them, the Chiefs package, the K-State Wildcat package too, I think. But the Greenback package is the only one that I'm involved. And then I just include a lot of those into my broadcast. We've got the BTI Green Zone and the Doug Ray Chevrolet pregame show. And honestly, whether or not they're paying for that, I don't know. It's just more, they're some of our best sponsors, so try to throw them out as much love as wherever we can.
Do you have in your setup the capability to run video advertisements, or do you cut your own ads?
I don't do any video advertisement, but if I was going to go out on my own, I would. I would think that would, because that would be that was my intent, was that if I didn't partner with the radio, I'd be going around selling video ads, and creating those video ads. So since we didn't, since we ended up partnering with the radio, just their 30-second radio ad is the ad that they get. That's what. And then if I'm doing other stuff not affiliated with the radio, I'll still throw those ads throughout my broadcasts. Things like that, whether it's like a little, I don't know. I thought I had my sponsors here on this banner here at the bottom. I'll do a crawler like this or something on the bottom, or some graphics here. There's our Thunder Country graphic. I try to just, again, do whatever I can with them paying through the radio. I just kind of feel like anything that I can provide for them beyond radio, I do.
Okay.
I like that you can put overlays on there. You could probably put,
like I said, I really, again, some people aren't iPad or Apple people. I'm an Apple guy, so I really like being able to just use my iPad for everything. It's compact. It's I can stream from about anywhere, and you can do the graphics, the videos. I mean, music. It's the only thing you can't do, and that's the main thing with sports streamers that they want, and it's kind of why I got away from this Switcher Studio, was instant replay. That was the one feature that they never seem to implement or aren't able to, and that was the one I saw a lot of sports streamers request, and was, when are you going to have instant replay? And that's been for 5 years, and it's never came along. So I've been trying to play with that. So that was one of the reasons I kind of upgraded to more traditional streaming equipment, was because I wanted instant replay. But even like for baseball, you can throw a baseball scoreboard up top there, and it's got everything from your your base runners, your balls, your strikes, your scores. And again, this is all just from the iPad. So a lot of times for baseball, this is all I'd have this in the press box with me. I'd have this camera, the one that's filming me right now, just facing the other way, to have your main wide shot, behind home plate, wherever, usually because I'd be right in the press box directly behind home plate. And that was my setup. It'd be the main wide camera, the scoreboard here, and then I'd be doing play-by-play, and people could watch along. I'd be streaming it to YouTube. And so that's how I'd do baseball and softball.
What program are those overlays and things through? Is that still Switcher Studio?
They're all built into the Switcher Studio. Let's see if there's any other things. That's what I would use mainly, was the scoreboard overlay, and then just a lot of these kind of multi-screen overlays. All my coaches shows that I do with our football coach, we bring, it's a setup that looks similar to this. It's a 2-camera view instead of this 3-camera view. But you can bring, just like I'm talking with you guys, you can bring remote guests in, and talk with whoever you wanted. And I'm recording it all right now. So if I wanted to, as soon as this is over, I could publish this as an episode. And it saves all of the after post editing. That's what I really like about it, is when I started switching to video, it's one thing to record it and do all that, but then you still got to go back and edit it all. You got to try to, cut all the videos and get your views. And this is kind of a live switcher. So all the switching or views that you want, if you do them live, then there's no post edit, needed. So you don't have to waste all that time after you record an episode then to go get it edited and switch all the camera views and do all that. It really cut down on my workflow as far as, after doing a coach's show, just really being able to upload it right away. If we wanted to go live right now, we could do that instead. But most of the time I just record it and then upload it when I'm done. If I need to trim a little bit off the back end or the front end, or, you can bring the music in, whether it's on your soundboard, just a lot of different options.
You said you said you started out simple with the iPhone or iPad. What have you graduated up to as far as using a camera now?
So this is, let's see here. Let me change this view. So for my cameras, I'll show you this kind of the switcher view, the hub here first. So let's see here. That kind of that black box in the middle, if you can see it, I don't think I can zoom here. That's that Magewell Director one. So that kind of replaces my iPad. That's what everything goes through. So you can see my Roadcaster down there in the bottom left corner. So my audio all comes through that Roadcaster. It goes into that Magewell Director one. And then that also brings in all my external cameras. I've got usually have one camera that I'll have on the scoreboard, just so I don't have to mess with the scoreboard graphic. I just put a picture-in-picture of the scoreboard at the field or the stadium. That way their clock operators do all the work. I know other
That's
graphics,
a good idea.
They look better, but again, my goal is one-man show. I don't have time to be starting and stopping the clock and updating the score and timeouts and, down and distance. So if it's already on the scoreboard, to me, there's no reason I need to be doing it too. So I'll a lot of times just have a camera on that scoreboard and bring it down into a picture-in-picture so all the viewers have all that scoreboard information. Let's see. Let me switch the camera setup then is more, here's kind of more your traditional camera. So this main camera is, I think it's a Canon. It's probably a $1,200 camera, but more of a tripod type of camera. You can find them, you can get them cheaper than that, way more expensive than that. But that gets me a lot more zoom, gets me a little more stable footage. So that's what I'll have a kit up on top of the press box running. And like that receiver up top, the little thing with the antennas, that's just so I can send that signal wirelessly back to me in the press box versus running a cable. It's not a necessity, but I like wireless when I can go wireless just for, gives me a little more range of motion and where I can set up. So that's kind of all just accessories, but that's the main thing is that tripod and the camera up top. That's your main shot. And I usually just do the one camera shot. Again, for away football games and being a one-man show, I just don't have the capability to put a kid on the sideline and do all that. I'd love to, but then you about need a producer communicating with them. When you're switching to what shot, and again, everything's got to fit into what I can do while I'm doing play-by-play also. So the other stuff there is just that thing on the bottom's a external power bank. That's just more battery. The monitor's just a external monitor, so the kid filming has a bigger screen than the little flip out monitor on the camera there. I don't know if I had a picture of my actual. A lot of times I'll grab one just to share it with, again, the community of us streamers. And you can kind of see it in this one here. Let's see if I can blow this up. Let me put this on. So this is kind of what a press box looks like. You can see that roadcaster down in the bottom left, and then that Magewell, the where you can see the football on the screen. That's that Magewell Director 1. So it's a pretty messy mess of cords in my press box. It looks like we could launch a spaceship by the time we're all set up. That black box sitting in the window, that's a little better internet. I did buy a Verizon. I pay for, that's kind of a Verizon mobile internet. A lot of people I see are using Starlink now. Just something to have more robust internet than what's in your cell phone. So that's the route I went, was with that kind of external portable modem / router. So that's kind of my setup.
How much time do you give yourself to set up? How early do you like to get there? How long does that take?
I usually get there, like for a football game, I'm usually there at 5, and I can get it all set up in an hour. And that gives me 20 minutes or so to troubleshoot if I need to, or just to make sure everything's working. And that's if I'm doing all the video side. If it's like our home games, because at our high school kind of does the video side of things. I'm just setting up audio at the high school, so it doesn't take nearly.
So you're kind of in a situation like me to a degree where they're already have a video stream for some of the home stuff, and you're just using their stuff for that.
Yeah, and that might be an option. I'm just trying to think of your situation. Would be to piggyback on the relationship.
I think they have 3 cameras set up for our football field already.
Yeah, and your basketballs are really, if I remember, is a really good setup. You guys have that whole student set. I mean, like a production suite there in the gym.
Yes.
With the PTZ cameras on both ends and the video board. And I remember at Substate, it was a really neat, I wanted to go tour it at the time, actually.
Sure,
like, man, this is
more
than
really welcome
cool
to stop
setup.
by. Yeah.
But I would think maybe there's a way for you to piggyback on their access to sponsors and boosters and to tack on, a package that pays you for all the roads, everything they don't stream. If I don't know what they charge for, if the school's selling sponsorships now.
They're not really. I don't think so.
No. Okay.
They do have a few ads
on the
for their
Jumbotron
video board, their Jumbotron video board. And so there is some sales on that end.
If you're a business in Abilene, right now, though, you're paying for just a radio package. Is that the way it's working?
Yep.
Nothing for streaming.
No. Now we have outside competition that comes in, and they do sell and video stream, but not every game, just select games throughout the sports season.
Because to me, again, I think I'm fortunate in the relationship that we built here. But if I'm a fan or a parent or a listener or a viewer, I want both. I don't want to lose Trent Sanchez on the radio just to get him on the video. So if there's a way you can partner, I think that's going to be most beneficial. If you start up a little, podcasting and doing away games, and then you can say to the radio station, hey, let's up that package. Now we're also bringing video, to the fans on away games. We're getting, they're on YouTube, so they're staying up forever. It's not just a one-time ad that gets played 30 times a month. It's, I'll go back and watch games from 5 years ago on YouTube and still hear the ads that were on that broadcast, or if you're re-uploading them on Spotify, for replay the next day. A lot of our kids, if I forget to do it, I'll have the kids texting me like, hey, when are you going to get the game from last night uploaded? Yeah. I'm like, oh, I didn't know you were waiting on it. They like to go back and listen to their ball games. And the ads live forever on those, so I think you can upsell a couple of those things, and say, hey, what if we increased that, package by $100 a month or whatever, and then that goes to Sanchez Media or whatever, where then you're still working with them instead of trying to compete with them and give fans, the best of both worlds.
That's the perfect situation. Like I would want, like you have right now. I'd like it to work out. I've spent my whole adult life. I've never been full time at that station, but it means a lot to me. In 24 years I've been there, so I'd like it to work out to have both going and give fans a chance for road games.
Right, and and in that scenario, it doesn't cost the radio station anything more. They're still taking home their packet, whatever portion of their package they're taking home now. Just any increase that you're asking for, you're going to tack on to the price of the sponsorship. What does a radio ad sell for up there?
I don't remember. I believe our Sportscaster Club membership may be somewhere in the neighborhood of like $135 a month or something like that. I don't do really any advertising, but I think it's something like that.
Yeah. So if you said, hey, let's go get it. Let's bump that up to $300 a month. And if you got 20 businesses that are pretty loyal businesses already, or whatever your number is, right there, you're talking $2,000-$3,000 a month extra that, you could swing your way. And it's not any more legwork or any more expense coming from the radio. But if you can prove that there's an added benefit to the listener, to the customer, to the business, I think you could sell that. Where, if you're going into that restaurant saying, yeah, I know it was 130 last year, but we're taking it up to 250 or 300 this year, they're going to say, well, what are we getting in return for that? So I think if you've got good answers for that, or you can say, well, we're going to be streaming all the away games now. We're going to be streaming baseball and softball. Maybe we never did that before.
No, they don't do that.
Yeah. So that's, they're going to be on YouTube and, radio. They're going to be re-uploaded the next day. So your ads are going to, stay out there. To me, like I said, I'm a business owner too. So I'm always thinking of it from that side. If I've got somebody on the other side of the desk selling me a sponsorship, what makes sense to me as a restaurant owner. And I don't think that's too much to ask for, especially people like supporting their high schools, especially towns of our size, they're the lifeblood. And so if you can provide value, people are going to support you, especially as long as you've been doing it. A lot of times it's more just people are appreciative that somebody's doing it, that cares about it, that loves it. And they're happy to pay the price to keep someone like that around.
Yeah, I'm like you. I have a business, so I have a lot of relationships. I do a lot of business with people around town, mechanics, gas stations. So the network of advertisers is there already.
Yeah. So I think that's the hard part, it would be if you didn't have that, so you've got that well established.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I really think it's going to be just maybe getting that video side of things started, whether it's
right.
I think basketball is probably one of the harder ones to do because you're in a gym, your internet sucks probably most of the time on the road. So you don't want to promise anything you can't deliver. or at least make sure the expectations are clear that, you're at the mercy of your internet. But the outdoor stuff to me is easier. Baseball is pretty much a single fixed camera, and now bam, just like that, you've got baseball and softball streams that you never had before. Football is pretty easy to tie into a huddle camera or, a kid on a press box running that. And then now all of a sudden you've got, your road games streaming as well. So, and then you work your way into basketball, whether it's what you guys already do or just seeing what you can do. And it's like, sorry, basketball didn't work out that great. But I think you've definitely got room.
Okay. Elizabeth, if there's any other questions you might have, you've answered a lot. I can tell you podcast. You're a smooth man. You can, you're good. You're good, Cody.
Well, like I said, it's all just been born out of a hobby, I never wanted to start it at first because I'm the least talkative out of my three brothers. I've got, so I was always trying to tell them, hey, start a podcast because there's no way I can talk like my brothers talk. And that's how we started the first 4 or 5 episodes. It went from the Eastus Brothers podcast to, well, then they stopped wanting to do it. They live one in Tonganoxie, one out in Oregon. So it was like, well, hey, I had fun. I want to keep doing this. So then it switched to a town called Pratt. I thought, well, I'll just talk about things relevant to Pratt. That'll really drive the needle if everybody knows this is a Pratt. I wanted to have a real small niche of, and well, then I wanted to do other things that didn't relate to Pratt at all. So then it just said, it's going to be Eastus Media. That kind of is a big umbrella that lets me talk about anything I want to, whether it's, one of my buddies who's a bear hunter in Alaska to, local sports people it doesn't have to relate to Pratt. It doesn't have to be my brothers. It's just whatever I want to talk about. And then that grew into the sports casting too. So it's just a lot of time spent on YouTube and following people, like you or other, sportscasters out there. I didn't know what a spotting board was until I started doing this. And it's like, all right, I'm gonna have to figure out how to do all this.
Well, you gave us a lot of great information. I greatly appreciate your time today.
Yeah, well, glad I could help out. Like I said, you probably have more questions now than you came in starting with this, information overload. So I apologize if that was the case. But yeah, the big thing, man, just starting. And I think finding a way you can collaborate with your radio station, for your fans and your businesses and keeping that network and not making your businesses having to choose between who they sponsor, is just really, it benefits everybody in my eyes. If it's possible, you might have a station that says, no, sorry, we're not going to do that. Or if we're going to raise the ad money, we're going to take it. We're not giving it to you. In that case, then you're having a different discussion probably. But yeah, anytime where you can, make the piece of the pie bigger, that benefits everybody.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time.
Well,
and
you're
your
welcome.
knowledge.
And I don't know if we'll see each other in basketball season or not this year, Trent. So, until next time.
That wouldn't be a bad thing. That means we're having probably pretty good seasons.
Right. So, okay. Well, holler if you need anything. You got my number and glad to help out where I can.
I can ever